Hey, so good afternoon everybody. We're going to be doing our training for November, rescue training. This is going to be more about the elevators and basic information. We've had training on not much of this, but some on SOGs. So we're going to go over it a little bit, what we have and the facility, and ways we can get around a few things. So let's follow along. I'm at the tech center here now. So basically, we're always going to be using the keys. So XSBM will open up the Knox box sometime soon, and your keys in here will always control your elevators. And unfortunately, on the tech center here, for the door outside that we need to access, there is no key for that. So it's a Refinery Grandmaster. So, but all your keys that are going to work on the off, the on, and the bypass are going to be in that box. It's going to be in the off position generally. When you go to the on position, your elevators are going to be in phase 1, and then all the elevators are going to come down to the bottom of the floor. Bypass would be a phase 2 if you wanted to move the elevator and just bypass everything. Like say an alarm was a bad alarm, but you want the elevators to be able to still work. That would be a bypass. I'm sorry, that's still phase 1. Phase 2 is if you take the keys that are in here, you go in the elevator and you start controlling the elevator from inside, and you would insert the key there. That's going to be your phase 2. Also, these keyholes that you see right there are not allowable in California. They can be used elsewhere, but these are plugged off and they are not allowed in California. So we're gonna look inside the car real quick. Oh, it's gone. There it is. We're looking at the car real quick, and phone is down here. If someone picks that up, it's an old rotary, but it actually automatically dials the firehouse. There is a number on it, and they'll see that number, but all they gotta do is pick it up and it automatically dials. This is your key that's in the phase 2 if you were going to control it actually, and there's some talks about the instructions there. Off is normal. If you put the key on, it places the elevator in emergency service, and then you can push the button for the floor desired. You have to maintain pressure on that button to close the door, and to open the door, apply continuous pressures to open the door. So if you needed to open it, you would hold the open. You need to close it, hold the close. And that's if you were still going to use an elevator to move things up and down, to get stuff up. But if you have a known fire and you're not sure if it's in the shaft, you would not want to be using an elevator. So this is a hydraulic elevator. So we're going to be talking about hydraulic, and we're going to be talking about traction or electric elevators. So again, this is a hydraulic elevator in the tech center. This is the one we've been having problems on. We've had a couple people stuck in this one here twice. So we're going to discuss that, and we're going to go outside and look at that real quick and how we can overcome some of those obstacles that are presented to us. So you're going to come out here. Usually hydraulic elevators are usually 6 floors and under, and your traction are usually 6 floors and above. Hydraulic elevators, usually the hydraulics and all the machineries that can be on the floor or the basement. And here, it's right here at the ground level. Like I said, there was no key in the Knox box. Refinery Grandmaster will open that. And then you come in here, and then Grandmaster will open that secondary one there. Just prop the door open. If we need to work on these elevators at all, we want to isolate the electricity. So these are very old elevators, their panels are open. So what I would recommend is if you have somebody that's stuck in one of the elevators and the keys don't work, and this is the key, the keys don't work, then there's a problem with the board. And this is what we had the problems with last time, is the key should always work. But unfortunately, because these are older elevators, if you can see those boards, these are what going bad on elevators. So unfortunately, I don't think they make them, and you have to piece them together. So one of the things you have to be cautious about is having these open panels. So my suggestion is if you had to do some work on one of the elevators because somebody is stuck or you need to maneuver them, that we shut both of the elevators off. That way someone that's in here doesn't trip, fall, lands on this, gets shocked inadvertently. So as you know, I've just put some locks inside our rigs, the rescue rig, the captain's rig, and the BC's rig, with a clasp to lock that. And what we could do is lock that out. And that's what we really need to do, is lock that out. Just like any type of lotto, we should be locking it out. It would only be locked out through the duration of that rescue or moving somebody. And then the other entity, whether the elevator service, electrician, they need to put their lock on after that. So anytime we get somebody stuck in these elevators, we should be calling a tech right away. Anytime. If they're not moving, whether it's the key, whether it's the board, we don't know why, one of the first calls should be to the tech, because they're usually on call and it's going to take them a little while to get out here. So that's going to be the first call, as a tech in every situation, because if the elevator is stopped and not working, then that's an issue by itself. So you need to get a tech out here regardless. So one of your first calls that you're going to have dispatch do is call out the elevator service and get them coming as soon as possible. All right. So we're going to try to, like I said, I would isolate both of those. One says left-hand car, other one under here, and it's out of service right now. Right-hand car, see, out of service, Dyson elevator. So the left one means the one, if you're facing elevators inside, it's the left side. The other one's the right side. Again, I would take both of them, as long as nobody wasn't in the elevator. You'd bring it down to the floor, the one that was working, and then just shut off the electrical panel for there. As you can see, it even says here, hydraulic elevator. It's their checklist. So in the situation where you can't get somebody moving, and the board pretty much is what's fried because the keys aren't working, there is a valve on the hydraulic elevators. It's called a T-valve, where you can lower somebody down even without the electricity, you know, safely bring them down, and the doors will open when they get to the bottom. I'm going to show you that T-valve. So I'll get my flashlight. Oops. And we're gonna, it's the panel here. Each of them would have their own T-valve. So this one here is, I believe it says the left car. It, can't see it there. There you go. It says the left-hand car. And then the one back there is the right-hand car. So depending on car what you need to lower, you would want to get in and open the panel for the particular car. That one, the panel would be on the side over there. All right, this one's on the side. So you just take the cover off. There's just a cover I took off. Just pull it up and take it off. If you can see in here, my flashlight, there's a little, let's see if I can get that. Zoom in. Okay, let's see here. So right there's a little T. It's a little valve. All you would do is left to loosen it, and as you do that, you'll hear a wisp, and what that is taking the pressure off and allowing the elevator to move slowly down. You'll keep doing that until eventually it gets to the very bottom, and then at that point, after it gets to the bottom, it would open up. And that's how you would safely bring somebody down if one of these boards was not working. Because the keys, if the board's not working, the key is not going to work. Again, you're still going to call an elevator tech to come look at it because there's an issue that probably the board is out or fried. But this is a safe way to bring somebody down. And even if they don't have an emergency and they're just stuck in there, you can safely bring this person down. Your electrical is disconnected, and then you're just putting these out of service. So if you look, there's some out of service little panels in here, or they go across the doors. So then you would put those in place, and then what I would do is have maintenance come replace our lockout tag out and our tags, and then put theirs on there. Ours aren't to be left after we leave. They are only for us during some type of rescue operations or something that we need to isolate. After that, the other entity needs to put their lock on and secure it. So again, these are hydraulic elevators. There's another way to pry open the doors if it's at level. The elevator's at level, and you know it's level. The tech showed me, and I may have it kind of constructed. All it is basically a screwdriver, and there's a little T on the top they weld. And basically you insert that in between the doors, and because there's like a T inside, when you turn that handle on that screwdriver, it pushes the bumpers on the interior doors, and when you do that, the doors open. It won't work on the exterior doors. You can pry as much on the exterior doors as you want. You can eventually pry those exterior doors and you'll open them, but you'll damage the doors. But in a true rescue life emergency, that's what, if you have to do that, that's what you're gonna do. But this way, that other tool that they've constructed, you put that in there, turn it, it hits the internal bumpers, and the doors just open. And that can work on a working elevator, and it only works on a hydraulic elevator. I'll put a picture of that in the email when I send out this training. But so this is pretty much the hydraulic elevators. We'll talk a little bit about traction. So the traction usually are in the overhead of a building. Like I said, usually 6 floors or above. Turn that down a little bit. Okay, let's do that. And we are not going to do much with the traction elevators. The problem with the traction elevator is it's on a counterweight, and unless you put a brake on that, you can still de-energize it, but that thing can still move. And from what I've learned from the tech and listening to the videos, that people have been decapitated, they've lost limbs because the elevator moved while they were trying to get people out. Say the elevator's off, it's not on the right floor, it's in between floors, and then, you know, they're pulling people out. People have actually been harmed trying to get people out because that elevator moved and it sheared whether a limb or decapitated them. So the elevator tech mentioned to me that, you know, those are, we shouldn't be messing with those unless we have some training where we can put a brake in place. And right now we don't have any knowledge of putting a brake in place, and so anything that's an emergency, especially with the traction elevators or a fire, one of the calls that we're going to be making automatically is going to go 3rd alarm. So we're going to be looking to have Richmond help us out, but we're in the process also of trying to get some technical training so we can perform, if need, some type of rescue. But we're looking for that right now. So anything that's life-threatening, we're definitely going to be calling the Richmond to help us out. I've talked to them a little bit about their procedures, and they will just pry the doors open. And the doors are going to get damaged, unfortunately, but that's what they do, is pry the doors open, because there are so many different elevators and there's so many different tools, and they really don't want you. The elevator tech was saying there's trying to unlatch the doors and so forth by poking up there. You can isolate the power, but the problem is the elevators still have lights and the phone in there, and so they're on a separate power system. So if you end up poking there to try to open the elevator up, trying to find where it latches, there's actually a box right in the top that's 120 volt that supplies separate power to the elevator for the lights and the phone. And then if you use tools incorrectly or poking in there trying to open something up, you could shock yourself. So, you know, a lot of places don't have all the tools for the elevators. That's why non-emergency type of situations, you're usually calling a tech. It does make it nice that these hydraulic elevators we have here, we can lower them down by using that T-valve. Again, that traction elevator, usually it is at the top, like on the top of the building, on the roof. If you get a chance, go to building 71, and off to the left, on the hallway on the left, their room for their elevators is actually down below there, different than the top. On the top of building 71, it's we have like cell towers. So on the bottom there is a traction elevator, and you can see the gears, and basically it's a brake you have to put on the gear, I believe, but they're all different and it's cable. So until we get that training, we're not going to try to deal with the traction elevators in that respects. Hopefully we'll get some training soon. But take a look at that. The SOG gets a little bit more depth about phase 1, phase 2. Remember, we have manual type elevators that are freight elevators here in the facility that don't have a key, that bypass. For example, that ISOMAX elevator and FCC have these elevators. And there is a manual, like there's a manual type of pin that you can manually lower those elevators down. And we have the freight type elevators. It's the same thing, the freight elevators. We have that in old 8 warehouse and an old storehouse. You know, same thing.